Hey guys, Justin Ledford, and welcome to Leading Your Roofing Business Like a Champion, featuring Graham Desert. This is brought to you by my new book, Federal Construction Contracts Simplified. This book teaches you everything you need to know so you can begin winning government construction contracts while only working 45 minutes each day doing what we teach you. You'll also be taught the basics of government construction contracts, as well as advanced tactics of how to negotiate with contracting officers and how to protect your construction company that rookie government contractors make when they first get started. For those of you that want extra training, we also have included 6 free bonus classes which will teach you the ins and outs of government contracts, the different types of jobs that you can win no matter what type of contractor you are, and how you can be the middleman and make huge profits if you get into this. We also teach you in that training how to find and hunt for the most lucrative deals, and we share with you 3 case studies of contractors who have used our methods and have won $18 million in government construction contracts this year alone. This comprehensive book includes an email that I sent to a contracting officer that made me over $20,000. It also includes a variety of construction schedule examples that you can model for your business and explains how you can take advantage of the wealth that's being transferred because of the government now opening up the $2 trillion stimulus plan. It also explains how you can make wealth by being a part of the new $2 trillion stimulus plan that was approved by our government. This entire book and audiobook is at federalconstructioncontractssimplified.com. My goal is to be your guide and helping you win government construction contracts. Because here's the deal. I have 8A, Hub Zone, and Native American contractors in my network. That's the golden ticket. These guys get hundreds of millions of dollars of government construction contracts every year, and we're looking for quality teaming contractors throughout America who we can hand these construction deals off to, meaning give them jobs to get done. If you want a tried and true path to create wealth through government construction contracts, consider joining Federal Construction University Mastermind, where you'll be groomed to be one of our teaming contractors. I'll drop a link below for both the book as well as the 6 free classes, which will lead you to my mastermind. Also, remember to hit that subscribe YouTube button. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Leading Your Roofing Business Like a Champion, featuring Graham Desert. Welcome to the Real Construction Owners Podcast, where we interview real construction owners and the service men and women within this industry who are helping us become better individuals overall. Today, I have a special guest, Graham Desert, the owner of League of Leaders. He's got an epic story about his past and what he's doing now, so stay tuned. Welcome, Graham. How you doing today, man?
What's going on, Justin? Great to meet you. Great to be here. I'm honored.
Man, I'm truly blessed and highly favored, living my best life out here in Costa Rica while my construction company thrives back in Austin, Texas, without me needing to oversee any of it. Love it. So I want to ask you your story. Talk to us before we get started on the unpacking the meat and potatoes of your successes. Talk to us. What's your story? How'd you get in construction? Walk us through memory lane.
Awesome. Well, I'll do a quick flyover. Obviously, whenever you get into somebody's story, you can drag it on for a long time. So I'll just do a quick flyover. So I grew up in a large military family, 10 kids. We moved every 2 to 3 years, mainly on the East Coast. And then my dad's final station was in Kansas City. So we moved to Kansas City. That's where I went to high school and college. That's where I met my wife. That's where I basically started my business, started my career, all of that. So currently I reside in Carlsbad, California. I've been here for 5 years. But leading up to that, I got into the construction industry through my older brother. I started out on the ladder painting houses, and the kind of went like this. I would work in the summers painting houses in high school and college, and then it got to a point when I was 20. I was like, I know how to paint. I know a gallon of paint costs this. I know he's charging the customers this. I'm getting paid this. I can do this on my own. So I branched off and started my own painting business when I was 20. I basically made enough money to pay bills. It was very simple. I would see a house that needed to be painted. I would go talk to them. It was that simple. That's how I got customers. And then I wanted to learn more. I wanted to grow more. And it was always this question of, man, if I could do this with myself, I wonder what it would take. Because I would see these trucks, these construction trucks driving around. I'm like, that's an employee, that's like, how do I have employees? How do I grow? So I actually became a franchise owner when I was 22. And that first year, learning the systems of how to operate, I became a top 25 franchise owner at the age of 22. That next year, when I was 23, I was the top franchise owner in the country. And it was all house painting. And then it just kept on growing. And the curiosity around business just kept on growing. I'm like, man, if I could do this with, a dozen employees and then do it with 30 some odd employees, what does it take to run a multi-million-dollar organization? I want to learn that. What skills do I need to learn? So I went to the franchise company that actually it was called the franchise company. And they gave me a division to operate. So I got, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska, and I got 6 employees. And so I grew that division from 6 employees to over 150 in like 6 or 7 months, I believe. And basically it was just taking the systems and processes that they taught me, the leadership skills that they taught me, and putting it into action, and I was probably, I think it was 25 or 26 at the time. And then from there, I worked for that company for a couple years. And then there's always this need of like, well, what's next? Like, man, this just keeps getting better and better. What do I do? And so I left that company and decided to get into the roofing industry as a sales rep. And so I worked for a local Kansas City roofing company as a sales rep for a year. And then was like, okay, I'm ready to start my own roofing business. And so that's what I did. 2008, I started my own roofing business and, was kind of owner operator with a subcontracting crew for probably about 4 years, 4 seasons before I decided to grow from there.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. So, I mean, unpack that a little bit. Every step along the way, you took value from it and implemented it into your next endeavor. And with that being said, you learned leadership at a young age. Like myself, I went through vector marketing and built a big business for that company, then took that and started in the roofing game. Talk to us about your roofing experience and what was your biggest success secret from what you learned from the past and what you implemented into your roofing company?
The biggest success secret, let's see. I mean, there's so many different things that, you could look at. I think I was fortunate at a young age. I had a multi-millionaire speak at a conference that I was at that this company put on, that I was working for. And he answered one of my questions, and I was like, what's the secret sauce to success in life? Like, what advice would you give me? I'm 24, 25 years old. What should I do? What should I do here? And he's like, you know what? In your 20s, you should learn, like, be a sponge. Learn as much as you possibly can. You can focus on money if you want to, but just get educated. And not just necessarily like in a university, like that's good, but get educated with experience. Get around people, like build your network, build connections, get out there, meet people, build the solid connections, and you're gonna acquire all those skills at a young age. So get all that down. Then in your 30s, place a bet. Like go out and do something with all that. That you've acquired and make something of yourself, put it to work, put it to use. And then in your 40s, you're like reaping a harvest that you've laid in your 30s, right? And then in your 50s and 60s, you're giving back, you're expanding and giving back. And so that's the advice that I got. And so in my 20s, what did I do? Dude, I was like meeting as many people as I could. I was working not as much as I could, but I was working a lot. I was acquiring skills, working on myself as much as I possibly could, reading books. Podcasts weren't really a thing back then. But now they are. So it's kind of like now the advice is just get in it. And, I feel like it's never too late to start that and to do that, and at some point you're going to feel called to place that bet. You're going to feel called to. It's like this gravitational pull. Like we all have it. We all have a vision inside of us. And at some point there's like this, it's this force. You cannot, it just continues to pop up. And if you go through life without like addressing that, it's going to be miserable. So you have to address that gravity, that force that keeps pulling.
Oh, God, just speaking directly to me, bro. Like, seriously, I love this. I feel like I'm talking to Yoda right now. I mean, that was some bombs you just dropped, Graham. So with that being said, we all have a purpose, a higher purpose, a better version of ourselves. And I'm curious, like, what made you decide to go after that better version of yourself?
Well, I had, so what made me decide? I just think it's just who I am. It's like this curiosity, of like, well, I know that this just isn't the way life is. Like, I'll give you an example. When I quit my job when I was 20, this is what I was doing. So this was 1999. I was 19 years old, going on 20, and I was making $18 an hour at that time, which is really good money, by the way, back then. Really good money. And, but I was working for the government. And dude, like government mentality, this was government mentality. And I was painting. We have basically you're working on this, military base. And so as the military moves out, we go in, we paint the inside of the quarters, and then, that's it. But the contract it's supposed to last all summer. So if you work too fast, then, it's not, you can't milk the government. So I'm like, my boss is like, whoa, we're only doing 1 unit a day. We get done with that unit at noon. And I'm like twiddling my thumbs for the rest of the day for 4 hours. I'm like, this is unacceptable. Like, I can't sit around for 4 hours and do nothing. I was like, this is before cell phones. We had like magazines and playing cards. And I'm like, this is so boring. I'm out of here.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So I think that's like the thing is like, I've always had that where it's like, there's gotta be something more to life. We're here on this earth to enjoy it and have adventure, like go out and do something with it. I don't want to be 80 years old and looking back on my life and regretting the things that I did not do. I would rather regret the things that I did do, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like I would rather deal with the things that I did do versus be like, man, I should have done that.
Yeah, dude, you seem like a super healthy, wholesome kind of dude. And, I value that as well. And most people, they just get stuck in business and money and, and then they take care of their family. But it should be wife, kids, business, not business, kids, wife. Because if you do that right, then everything flourishes. And let's change gears, because this is something I'm sure you know about. Our brains, they're like a cocktail, and there's different chemicals within our brain, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. And if we don't get these 4 chemicals, then we can't receive true happiness. Are you familiar with this at all?
Yeah. So I read a lot. In fact, the book right here that I'm reading right now is Think and Eat Yourself Smart by Dr. Carolyn Leaf. She's a neurologist, and she talks a lot about that. And then I have this other one called Switch on Your Brain Every Day by Dr. Carolyn Leaf. And basically what she talks about is our thought life, and what we think about, we bring about. And she talks a lot about how our thought patterns that we've developed actually impact our physical health. So in fact, like the diseases, all the things that are passed down through our family lines can be curbed and like stiff armed, if you will, if we create healthy and positive thought patterns and thought life. So that has to do with the way that we're designed, like the chemicals that you're talking about, releasing those chemicals, the good ones, avoiding things that will actually release, the bad ones,
Yeah, like most people, like illicit drugs, they release illicit dopamine into us, which causes a fake feeling of fulfillment. Where if we're working out, we're getting endorphins. If we're connecting with our loved ones or connecting with our creator, we're getting oxytocin and serotonin. And if we're hitting goals, we're writing down goals and then crossing it off when we hit it, our brain releases dopamine. And that's like a balanced life that it's worth living for. So I'm curious about you. What's an area you believe 100% that an owner of a construction company, high stress, a lot going on, what's an area this construction owner who's listening right now should focus on?
Well, I would say, and this is a lot of what I talk about now, it's developing your core. So developing your core as a leader is really understanding who you are, your identity, understanding your unique abilities as a person, developing your values, developing your core beliefs, developing the things that you stand for and don't stand for, developing a personal and professional vision, and getting that aligned with your family. Like you talked about it, family, or it's like wife, kids, business. And I go one step further. It's like God, wife, kids, business. And so getting all that in alignment is super important. And, sometimes things will be out of balance, and that's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
You have to understand, like, getting your core together first. Because
Preach it.
Yeah, dude, like I'm telling you, like it can't all be about your kids. It can't all be about your business. It can't all be about your wife or your husband. Like it can't. It cannot be. You cannot prioritize other things or other people before yourself. So you have to get your core together, and then you can lead from the inside out. That's our approach. Lead from the inside out.
Beautiful. So we've got some bombs to drop for our listeners. Contractors, we're about to release some information to you, so pay close attention. But before we do that, we're going to go back a little bit. Graham, I want you to tell us an expensive lesson that you learned that was painful, that hurt. Go back to that time in your construction business.
I was going to say, I'm like, bro, okay, so which lesson do you want? So let's focus on the construction business. So in 2016, okay, my wife and I decided to move to California. And this was a personal decision based on personal things that we won't get into right now. But at that point, we're like, okay, we're working on our marriage. We're getting things right. She's actually out in California on a retreat. And I'm like, I could just hear the joy in her voice. And I'm like, let's move, babe. Let's move there. So we decided to move there. And at that point, I had, I felt like if I didn't tell people, it wasn't going to happen. So we told our parents, told my parents, told the company, had a company meeting, explained what was going on. I did not have a management team in place at that point. But I'm like, okay, we're 9 months out. I need to get all of this stuff together. I've got 9 months to figure this out. So we did. And it worked out really well. I had a GM, I had a sales manager, and somebody handling the financials and things like that. So the business was good. Then we moved. And at that point, we decided to expand the business even further, open a branch in California and open up branches all across the country. So the vision opened up. Once I got out of Kansas City and into San Diego, the vision opened up. And so I brought on partners and the company expanded, which is fine. People talk about how fast growth is unhealthy. Well, it just depends. It depends. It depends on, do you have the foundation set? Do you have all the checks and balances in place? Do you have the people in place? Do you have the processes dialed in? So I grew up in franchising, which once you have a system and a way of doing things, you can expand quickly. That's how franchising works. And so, and my partners were experienced in franchising. So we all came from we all had the same DNA, so to speak. So everything was working great. And we expanded into 10 states, had, over 100 employees, and, everything was actually moving well. Financially, it was tight. Things were tight. And, you're in this space of, you're not necessarily like rolling the dice. It's a calculated risk based on numbers. So it's like, I know this based on my experience in business. If we do this, this, and this will happen. And so we had all of that laid out. The one thing that we didn't plan on was a pandemic. We didn't plan on that. So that was sort of a curveball. But, in business, there are challenges that come that you don't even see. One of the things that I've learned from working with SEALs is that when they prepare for a mission, the mission may last like 8 hours, but they spend 24 to 48 hours of planning and preparation. So and one of the things that they do is they look at contingencies. They already know how to train. They already know how to use the equipment. They know all of those things. They go through the process and the flow of the mission, but then they have to go through contingencies. If this happens, what are we going to do? So when you're business planning, you have to do that. If this happens, what are we going to do? What do we have for us? What are our drivers and what are our restrainers? So we go through all the restrainers. Okay. And there are some restrainers that you are just not going to be prepared for. And you may not have answers for. And so that's one of the things that happened to us. We had people quit and not want to work. And so we had just spent, this was in the first quarter of 2020 when that went down.
Yeah.
So 2019 was a big scaling year for us. And so we had just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on payroll and hiring and training. And then all of a sudden, people that we hired and trained and we put money on that we were planning on a return on investment. It's like you spend money and time to train these people. And then at some point they need to go out and work to bring in revenue. And so that didn't happen. So that left a hole. Okay. And then, so from there, basically what happened was I was focused on other things, when I should have been focused in the business. So people talk about working in the business and working on the business, and that working on the business is a good place to be as an owner. But sometimes you need to be working in the business. And so as an owner, as an executive of a company, I was working on the business. I was working on the future vision when I should have been dialed in to what was going on. And that ultimately led to the demise and the closing of our company.
Wow. So many things to unpack there. Basically, you were these commission or were these like hourly people?
Commission. They're commission based, but you've in the state of California, things are a little different.
I see.
Yeah, things run differently. So the main issue where we had the main issue was in the state of California.
And what was the lesson you learned from that?
Well, I think the lesson that I learned, if I was to do it all over again, I'd still do it, but it would be more oversight for me. So trust but verify is the big thing. At some point, you're going to get you to grow and expand. You're going to have to release responsibility to other people, but you need to verify that things are going the way that they're supposed to be going.
Yeah. So switch gears. I appreciate you being so vulnerable and telling us that story because, a lot of people just see the good, the shiny, the rainbows, everything perfect in the social media world. But we like to get real with each other, find out what the holes are in construction owners' business so they can learn from other people's experiences. I'm curious, what's an investment you've made that surprised you?
An investment that I made that surprised me. Oh, well, I probably the biggest thing I'll always invest in people. And what I mean by that is hiring people, giving people shots, or investing in development for people. Like we spent a lot of money on development for our employees because it was such a high priority for us. One of the stories that it's something that I love. So this guy that I hired in Kansas City, his aunt came to me. She was an employee at the time, and she's like, "Hey, I have this nephew that he's a little rough around the edges, but he's a good guy and he'll work. And so he just needs a shot." And I'm like, "Okay, let's interview." So I brought him in, and of course he's rough around the edges, and he had been working minimum wage jobs most of his life, like tearing down barns in the middle of Missouri, doing hard labor work. And so to get an opportunity to make commission doing sales was an opportunity that he had never had. And so he learned our sales systems and our sales processes. It took him a while to learn, but through the patience of working with him, he was able to buy a home. In which his mother, his goal, because we did vision planning and things like that. So his goal was to have his mom live with him the last years of her life, because she had some stuff going on with her health-wise. So he was able to buy a house to house his wife and his son and also his mother. And he was able to spend the last few years with his mom. And to me, like, I remember the look on his face when he opened up his first commission check. It was like $4,000 or $5,000, and not like a massive commission check, but to this guy, seeing that check, like, he literally was in the office weeping with joy. And
Awesome.
And then he called me when he qualified for a home loan. He called me, so that's an investment to me that surprised me. I didn't understand how investing in other people would actually be, how it could be that rewarding.
That's beautiful. Some of the things you've said, we do in our company. I'm curious, what's your number one tip for contractors, for owners, on how they can build culture, a strong culture for their commission-based sales reps?
Well, good culture, I think, first of all, stems around the values and the behaviors that you want in the company. So you have to set a vision, you have to set goals, and within those goals, what's the mission, what's the purpose, and what are the values? And values aren't necessarily like what you value or what you think is important. Values are, I was actually talking about this morning with a group, but values are behaviors that are set into action. It's a behavior, and it's behaviors that you want your employees to have. Every single person in that company, every single person in that community is working on a daily basis to behave in those manners, whatever the value is. But those values have to align with trying to achieve a certain mission or vision. And so that's the first step to creating a culture. And that those values have to be communicated often. Posted, they have to be able to see them, and they have to communicate it.
Nice. That's valuable. So curious, as far as what you're working on now, the League of Leaders, where you build leaders and you help men and women just become the bigger, better version of themselves. How'd that get started, and how can people find out about that?
Well, it got started. I've always had a knack and just a desire to build people and multiply leaders. And quite frankly, without getting too personal, for me, it's about reaching the future generations. That's ultimately the why. that's the vision. That's the purpose of why I'm doing it, is to reach the future generations. Because what happens is, I know that if I instill and build and create leaders and adults, they're going to pass that into their own children. And you look around the world today, look around the communities, and kids, teenagers are not being led. They're not being shepherded.
They're being led by their smartphones and nonsense TV.
This is what they're being led by, TikTok and social media, whatever it is. So they need parents to step up and lead them. And so ultimately, that's what this is. I can see the long-term vision. Eventually, it will get into a division of, trained teenagers, but it starts at home. It starts with the parents. And so that's what this is. It's training, not just for your business. All of these principles, resolving conflict, coaching for high performance, how to resolve, how to solve complex problems, adjustable leadership, building trusting relationships. All of these topics apply not just to your business, but they apply to your home life too. And so that's where it comes from.
I love this. Now, you have experience, like I said, I've seen some of your workouts that look super intense, and you have experience with training with the Navy SEAL, and you have like 1,000+ hours. Can you give us some insights into that and what that's done for you, your business, your family life?
Yeah, totally. So 2013, I looked in the mirror and was like, this is unacceptable. Like, what I was seeing in the mirror, the reflection of the man that I was seeing, I was not happy with. Wasn't happy with the way that I looked, wasn't happy with the way that I felt. And some drastic things, radical things needed to change. So I started to get in shape. And, I learned this philosophy: you have to get in shape to get in shape. You have to get in shape to get in shape. So I just started small, dude. Started working out in groups, loved the accountability. And then there was a major shift in my life that needed to happen. And I was like, okay, well, I need massive help, and I need to do some radical things. So I found a program called SEAL Fit, which basically what they do is they put civilians through a Hell Week simulation.
Oh, wow.
And so they're all retired Navy SEALs that work on building people. And I was like, I need that. So, Mark Devine is a retired SEAL commander. He's the one that founded SEAL Fit. I worked with him for about 5 years. After I went through his programs, they invited me to work as a volunteer. So what I did was I've done, over 1,500 hours of physical and mental training with this organization. And that completely shifted my life. That put me into a trajectory of doing extreme endurance challenges. I did the Sparta 300. I was invited to go do that with 20 other elite athletes around the world. We went to, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie 300, where the Spartans walked from Sparta to Thermopylae and cut off the Persians from the invasion. Well, we were the first group to retrace the steps of King Leonidas and the 300 Spartans from Sparta to Thermopylae. It's 235 miles. And so stuff like that. I did a Murph every day for a year, and that attracted a lot of attention. So, I was featured in Men's Health magazine, not just in the US, but over in Europe and in Spain. And so it's been quite an experience. And
that's why you and I connected, because I have the Real Construction Owners Mastermind, where we bring in a small, intimate group of 7-figure owners or aspiring 7-figure owners, and we push them to their limit. We bring about them the better version of themselves, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And that's why I wanted you to unpack some of your goods, your story, because listen, contractors, if you are at a point in your life where you're hitting a brick wall, where you could be producing more, where your business could be running itself, where you want more health, more vitality, more financial freedom, then we have a special offer for you. What we're doing is a 25% discount to the Real Construction Owners Mastermind here in Costa Rica. Graham and I will be hosting this. You're going to learn an incredible amount of stuff. If you're interested in that, it's a very limited offer for a limited amount of people. So the link will be below in the comments below. We want to invite you because we're about building leaders. We're about making men and women stronger so they can lead from the front with their wife, with their kids, and with their business. Graham, before we go, what's one thing you want all these construction owners to know that you feel could make them have a better day, a better week, a better year?
You know, I think our life is a gift, and I think one of the biggest gifts that we're given is our potential. And I think what we do with that says a lot. You know, it's a gift from God, quite frankly. And, you know, the best way that we can honor him is by utilizing our life to our fullest potential. You know, like everything in nature lives to its fullest potential. So why don't we, you know, and, don't live in fear. You know, things can go wrong. Yes. But I would much rather, again, I said it earlier, I would much rather not live when I'm 80 years old, I don't want to be thinking about the things that I didn't do. So create that vision and start taking action.
Iron sharpens iron, baby. Listen, if you want a better version of yourself, come join us. Graham, this has been fun. Where can somebody find you or reach out to you?
Find me on social media. That's the biggest thing. You can find me on Instagram. It's really simple. Graham Dessert, Dessert, like dessert. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'll have my website posted. It's leagueofleaders.com. And that's the best way to find me.
Awesome, brother. And for our listeners, you do get a special offer with League of Leaders as well. So that link will be in the comments below as well. Thank you so much, Graham. Have a great day, brother.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a growth-minded contractor. Leave me a comment down below and let me know the biggest lesson that you learned. Leave that comment down below. And remember to hit that YouTube subscribe button. And if you're interested in doubling your revenue and awakening your potential and knocking down incredibly awesome construction projects for our government, I want to invite you personally to join me and the teaming contractors in our mastermind that have what is known as the golden ticket in the government contract world. These contractors have 8A, Hub Zone, and Native American set-aside status, meaning that they're given hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts every single year, and we need quality contractors to give those contracts to get the jobs done. No matter if you're in Alaska or Hawaii, New York, Puerto Rico, or any state in between, we have construction contracts opportunities in every state. Your first step to get started is get a copy of my book, Federal Construction Contract Simplified.com. And if you want a more in-depth training, go get your 6 free classes from our Federal Construction University Mastermind. Those links will be in the comments below.